Hello, everyone. We're group number 38, and today we'll be presenting our recommendations to General Motors. All right, so today we'll go through an introduction, present our recommendations, as well as an SDG relevance, and then go through the intercultural communication sector. So for the introduction, our team's analysis begins with a closer look at the complex trade environment General Motors operates in today under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. While the agreement was designed to modernize trade and strengthen North American collaboration, it has also exposed General Motors and other automakers to new political and economic uncertainties. The reemergence of US tariffs on steel and aluminum in 2025, along with retaliatory measures from Canada and Mexico, has driven up material costs and forced companies like GM to constantly reevaluate their production and pricing strategies. On top of tariffs, the volatile political environment where policies can change with every administration creates instability for long-term investment choices. GM relies on closely integrated supply chains that cross borders multiple times. Any policy shift disrupts production timelines, sourcing agreements, and logistics across all three nations. At the same time, USMCA's labor and wage requirements, like the $16 per hour threshold for a share of auto components, place additional pressure on manufacturing operations, particularly in Mexico. This has intensified concerns over cost competitiveness, labor relations, and workforce morale. In summary to our introduction, GM's primary challenge today is finding a balance between political unpredictability and operational stability, increasing tariffs, evolving labor expectations, and delicate cross-border supply chains all pose threats to its efficiency and profitability. These are the issues our strategic recommendations aim to address.
Okay, so now the recommendation. So we have three recommendations. I will present the first one, and then I will let two other persons of the group present the other one. So our first strategic recommendation for General Motors is to establish a policy engagement and risk forecasting unit. So the automotive industry, and especially General Motors, faces constant uncertainty due to changing US trade policies and tariffs on steel, aluminum, and electric vehicles. These fluctuations have a direct impact on production costs, pricing, and investment decisions. So this dedicated unit would focus on monitoring policy trends, modeling tariff impacts, and maintaining regular communication with regulators. So the goal is to anticipate policy shifts rather than react to them, allowing General Motors to adjust its sourcing, pricing, and production strategies in advance. So, for example, if new tariffs were announced on EV batteries from Mexico or Canada, this team could simulate the cost impact, assess supply chain alternatives, and coordinate with regulatory agencies to advocate for favorable trade terms. By creating this internal policy and forecasting unit, General Motors will strengthen its resilience against geopolitical and trade volatility, ensuring more stable long-term planning and competitiveness across the USMCA region.
I think it's the next one.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. Yes, for the next one, number two, it's regional strategy for electric vehicles. So essentially, these new tariffs and the inconsistencies on incentives on electric vehicles, they make long-term planning much more difficult, and therefore we think General Motors should adopt a more regionalized hybrid approach. So essentially, they should continue their electric vehicle expansion where the incentives are strong, but they should also maintain the production of standard combustion vehicles in markets that are facing the uncertainty. And in addition, also local battery partnerships could further reduce the dependence on imported materials. And so the effects of that is that GM or General Motors keeps flexible and competitive under volatile trade and also policy conditions. And second effect is that jobs can also be protected by balancing hybrid production with growth in the electric vehicle sector. And the last one is that cuts on costs and a stronger supply stability through local manufacturing.
Okay, so our third proposal that we would like to share with General Motors is the diversification of their suppliers and also the confirmation of clusters within each of the individual regions in North America. So the reason for this is that tariffs and sourcing under these USMCA new policies complicate the cross-border production. Therefore, General Motors can reduce the exposure to these problems by creating regional supplier clusters, one in Canada, one in Mexico, and one in the US. And in this way, they can create groups of local suppliers around the plants that they already have in these regions. So the effects that these can have for them is that they are able to increase their reliance on their supply chains and also reduce the disruption from all these problems related to the policy changes and the tariffs. That also allows to create more equal job conditions. That means that the conditions are more fair among Canada, the US, and Mexico. And also, it gives them the opportunity to build stronger relationships with local communities, in some way also improving their social impact and the way that they are perceived across the continent.
Okay, so now for our recommendations, the most relevant sustainable development goal is the SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. So this goal is at the heart of what we propose by creating a policy engagement and risk forecasting unit. General Motors will build a more stable and predictable business environment. This directly supports long-term job creation and investor confidence, both key elements of sustainable economic growth. And our regional strategy for electric vehicles also protects employment by balancing traditional vehicle production with electric vehicle expansion. This ensures that workers remain supported even during technological transitions and market uncertainty. In addition to that, our supplier diversification and regional clusters encourage regional development, helping local suppliers thrive and strengthening the North American supply chain. Beyond the SDG 8, our recommendations also contribute to other SDG, like SDG 9, by promoting innovation and infrastructure in the EV sector, SDG 12 by building more efficient and sustainable local production systems, and also SDG 13 by supporting the transition to lower emission vehicles.
All right, so now I'll explain how our team would adapt our communication when presenting our recommendations to General Motors Canada. When presenting to GM Canada's leadership, it's important to understand the country's cultural dimensions, according to Hofstede. First, Canada has low power distance, which means workplaces are more equal and open. Because of this, we would use a respectful but collaborative tone, encouraging open dialogue instead of relying only on authority. Second, Canada scores high on individualism, so it's important to recognize personal initiative and accountability. while still highlighting teamwork and shared goals. Third, Canada is a low context culture, which means they value clear, direct communication. We would present our information using data, visuals, and an organized structure to make our message straightforward and professional. Fourth, with moderate uncertainty avoidance, Canadian leaders prefer plans that are well structured but adaptable. We'd emphasize realistic timelines and flexible solutions when explaining our strategies. Finally, because Canada values quality of life and collaboration, we'd maintain a polite, cooperative tone that promotes balance and unity across the North American team. By adapting our communication to fit each country's culture, General Motors can strengthen collaboration across North America and ensure our strategies are clearly understood and successfully implemented. Thank you for listening. That concludes our presentation.